Okay, we just got the last piece in the mail that we're kind of waiting for before we tear stuff apart. But the Z-bar, that's what this tape was left here on the frame for when I poured 15. So I had a nice clean spot to weld this bracket to. Since it was an automatic car and we're going to a 4-speed, that'll line up about there. And then this ain't gonna be exact, just ballpark. Just make sure it looks like it is gonna work. And actually, there's a little step on this bracket right here. Goes down the ledge of that frame. And when you got it in here, like that, it actually looks like it's gonna line up exactly like we need it. So everything there is gonna work. It's gonna be back in there another 1/2 inch when the bolt thread's in. So I think that was a good one. We'll get that bracket on after we finish this truck over here. We just took a slight break from working on the C3 for this. Young high school kid having problems with his truck. The younger people are wanting to get into hot rods. You know, even just getting their own ride going. So I had him bring it down and tried to extract the bolt. The bad part is that caused them to get stuck was they had an easy out in the bolt, but it was halfway in the threads of the bolt and the manifold, so kind of locked itself in place. So, haven't been working on the C3 for a little while, but if this is what I got to do to help somebody out, and that's what I'm going to do. And I always tell people that I'll work on something for them, and whatever you can afford, you know, that's what you give me. If it's something you can't afford or whatever, just whatever you feel good about. You know, and even if it's a 12-pack and you come and have a beer with me sitting by the fire watching the river, you know, it don't matter to me, but it's whatever you feel good about. And if it's nothing and you honestly can't, you know, pay anything, then all the better. Okay, we finished up the truck. Did a few other things, put his exhaust back together for him. It was falling apart and cut in half. Fixed a couple vacuum leaks, bunch of stuff. But now we're back to the C3. Okay, so we got the Z-bar that we're gonna work on and the bracket. This is another problem that I ran into that I didn't talk about. This is the proportioning valve for the 4-wheel disc stock for 69. I bought one, I think it was for 69, but the brake lines I got must have been for 70 to 73 or something like that. So this top fitting does not fit in here. I checked online for an adapter. They do have one, so I'll have to get that coming. But sometimes the little things are what takes so long. The Borgeson box, that's another thing. You gotta have the fittings to go down in here to adapt. I didn't buy the full kit, just the box. And I have to get the fittings first before I can make the hoses. And like I said, going hydro boost up on top, up here, just so you don't have that great big diaphragm valve. and it's a lot cheaper if you just find a junkyard hydro boost and do it yourself. Okay, we were putting this back together. Got the other one over there back together, and the first one I did a few days ago. Then I started working on the young gentleman's pickup, and I then started on this one. Got it pressed together and realized I was a dumbass and put the carrier for the brake backing plate on backward. So we had to go borrow Vaughn's big tool again. And if I don't quit playing with his big tool, I'm gonna end up owing child support, alimony, or something. So I gotta get this shit right. Okay, we got the frame mostly put back together. The stuff that I was waiting on for having the motor in place and that is done. Those were putting the Z-bar bracket in. I got it in. We can pour 15 on the frame. We got our little tabs underneath welded up. Where in the hell are they? That one and that one for the manual tranny brackets. We got that stuff done. Gonna have to get the right brackets for hooking up to the Muncie. Different style year. The pinion, we got to check out the pinion angle because we're at like 4 degrees down on this one. And this is either level or 1 degree down the opposite direction. So I'm going to look at possibly these bushings. One's a little thicker than the other one. I'm going to look and see if it's possible, if I might be able to swap places. Other than that, probably going to have to go with shims in the back. Get our angles right. We got the rear half shafts in. This car had a small half shaft and a large half shaft. So gonna have to get another large half shaft. They're just temporary sitting in there to keep the rear end in place. We got our e-brake cables in. We got our e-brakes set up and in place. Talk about a shitty design. These things, you can't see nothing. They suck. There's most of the blood's gone. It bit me. I didn't like that. So I think that's about it. We're gonna put some wheels and tires on it. Gotta pull the brakes out of these wheels and go get some cheap tires on it. The whole front steering knuckle and all that stuff's still in there, but I'll take those apart, put some tires on so we can at least roll this around, get the motor out, put it back on its stand, and start working on the body. I guess we did pick up some stuff in the last few days used. Got us a set of Keith Black Ridetech pistons. Not what I wanted to go with, but the guy had them on Craigslist for a good price and he was local, so I went and picked them up. Picked up water pump from another guy. He had cheap in Spokane, so we got it. So those are things we won't have to get later. Okay, we got basket case in here. Now you get to see why it's a severe basket case. There's really not too much left. But start with the frame. You can see it. There's a nice big crack right there. Looks like whoever had it was scabbing it together often. And you go down here and to match that, there's a nice big crack right there. You can see that. That's bad. See how the lower control arm mount is all whacked. There's some scab welds. Obviously, this car had been sitting for a long time, but from the 90s, I believe, but somebody beat the shit out of it. So, but most of it we're not using. Tub, that. That's pretty much the gist of it. Front end, like I said, that'll be going away. Rear end of the body, that'll be going away. Hard top, obviously keeping. Vacuum system for the headlights will be going away. Inner fenders going away. The braking system will go to hydro boost as long as the firewall is in good shape. We'll be taking that. Like I said, basket case. The stuff that counts, dashboard. Can't really see it very well, but the dash is actually in pretty good shape. Got the center console, all the gauges and that. So the stuff that you'd be keeping in a resto mod, most of that stuff's here and in okay shape. But I'm gonna start tearing it apart. Okay, I look like shit, but that's what you get. We did find one thing so far. This car was hit pretty good in the driver's side front, right in front of the door. I'll show you that. This area right here, it'll be fun to fix because it got both flanges, the inner and the outer flange. Motor mount cage or support is messed up a little bit. That's no biggie. Right here in front of the door, I actually think they might have a good section of this on the 69. This will have to be repairing, and I think some of the parts are available, so I'll get them. Okay, you'll see that the neighbor came over to help, and I told him the straps were precarious, but kind of got a little out of hand and had a little problem. You'll see. Well, this guy was living on a wing and a prayer. I've showed you the other cracks and stuff, but turn this frame apart, show you what I found. So this thing was parked in like 93, that's what the plate said. It must have been scary as hell to drive, taking the steering linkage off, and the idler arm here mounts to this bracket on the frame. Ain't even attached. Nice. This guy just beat the crap out of this car. The upper A-arm cross shaft mounts. Can't really see it on the video, but they're cracked loose. I beat on them, and it knocks stuff loose clear over here, meaning they're moving. This one, you can see it's about half off. But like I said, and the lower A-arm spring pockets, that's how far down that should be pinch welded together, or at least together. That's how far that thing is dropped down. No, over here, it was starting to do the same, but this guy beat on this thing. Said this crack, these cracks, all the scab weld some guy was trying to do, you know, cracks everywhere. Up here, you got this crack. The upper A-arm mounts cracking there. I've found a bunch more cracks, but this one here, I don't know if anybody has found a frame that's quite this bad, but I'll make it a challenge. Anybody? Show me some pics of the carnage that you've seen, and do you think you can top all of this? About the only thing really holding this front end together was the sway bar. Cracking back here. Spring pocket cracked. Yeah. I'd say somebody was looking out for this guy. Because he sure in the hell was living on borrowed time. Okay, you might not be able to see it very well. The light's not real good in this garage, but I'll show you what we got. This crate's been in here for a couple years now, I think. We got our, can't see it very well, but 4-inch flared rear quarters. In the back, there's the full 3-inch flared front clip. Hiding in there, big block hood. We got some smooth inner fender wells, some of the block off panels for inside, and I think a little bit of firewall stuff. But so now that basket case is out of here, we can get to this and start this next part of the project. And to be honest, as soon as basket case just pulled into the shop and I took it apart, that's all I know about fiberglass and Corvettes. So if I'm going on this journey, I guess you guys are too. If I screw up, you can laugh. Sadly, that's the remnants of my Harley V-Rod that was custom to look like an old bike that I traded for the basket case. Probably not the best decision I ever made. Okay, here she is in all of her unglory. But it is what we're using, so. Overall, looks like a piece of shit, but it's really decent bones. Like I said, 93 is when looks like they probably took it off the road. And amount of rust and sand, it might have been a coast car down there in California, I don't know, or out someplace where they had a bunch of dust, like Bakersfield or something, but I don't think they sand their roads down there. There was some rust in some things. The tail panel beat pretty good. In this corner, beat pretty good. I guess the guy backed it into a guardrail, that's when he parked it. But the condition of the frame and the way the trailing arms were set up, I got no doubt that he could control this thing very well with the big block in it. I got to figure this out. Looks like it just needs to be re-glued. So everything that I'm going to do, I feel confident that I could accomplish it, except for this area right here. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do because it looks like the bonding strips broke. Like I said, I am going to take this tail panel, separate it right in this area, because on this, we are going with those larger flared quarters. And I think I'm going to try to attempt someplace up in here. I'm going to whack this off, cut this one up here off close to it. Try to get it exact if I can. And then when I cut it, I'll make my own bonding strip to go across and glue it. Won't be a normal type repair, but like I said, this ain't professional. And I'm not looking for a concourse car, just an autocross car for me and the granddaughter to play in. She just got her driver's license and she said that she would be game to do it. So I'm gonna hold her to it. But the full front end will go on. I'll clean up all of these bonding flanges areas, get them clean, check them for height and all that kind of stuff that I've read a little bit on. This damage area over here, I do have this back section that I scabbed off of the 69, and that goes right here. So I got that. I got Ben, friend, seeing if he's got one of these. Hopefully he does. I can find this out. I think this outer part online, but I haven't had much luck other than that. But it's not a biggie. It'll be easy. So this will be the next step.